personally is to dig into that whole data lake, as we say, and infer some information that is of value to the general public and to B2B customers, hoteliers, who might then adjust their strategies, think about what their future trends and ideas might be. So what I want to discuss with you today we'll have two aspects. The idea is first is to grasp a better understanding of how digital tools are now really bringing a new revolution into our ways to operate within a hotel, to deal with clients, and also to change the consumer experience. Throughout our talks, so you're going to see, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples that are from real life and already in operations today. It's not like future what if concepts. It's something that are existing right now in hotels. So that just to give you a better feeling that what I will be talking about is not just about the future. It's about right now. It's really the trends that are changing our industry at the moment, and that you as professionals will be facing very soon as soon as you enter your work environment. So it's not just looking at future perspective. It's really about understanding what is making a difference right now and what will be making a difference in the months and years to come. So we will be really starting by digging into today's trends, and then we'll also challenge some elements that are emerging in this industry, because of course robotics are making huge advances, but there are some elements where maybe digital might go too far or might not be appropriate, and in the end other trends, other concepts will also broaden our mind on the fact that there are other ways to innovate as well. And digital and the human touch together are really should be taken into account as a I would say cluster, but that's not a word you want to use today in this context. But it needs to work in interaction together, and that's how you get the maximal experience customer. That's how you get the best customer experience and operational performance. So welcome to you all, to those of you who are lucky enough to be with us physically. See quite a number of people actually from considering the tough sanitary conditions that we are at the moment. So welcome to you as well if you are online. And well, let's get started if you're okay with today's session. So the first thing is, of course, it's obvious, like hotel digitalization is on the rise, and the latest months and years have really brought another level to this trend, which is what we're gonna look into. The first trend, I'm sure you all guys have heard about it, and it's something that we see in many places and in many aspects of the hotel. So digital really is changing hospitality at different customer touch points. And one of the first customer touch points is when you arrive, when you make a reservation, and even before your stay. So the check-in is when the client will be starting his in-house experience within the hotel. And that's one of the first ways, actually, that the digital has quite changed the experience in recent, I would say, months or years sometimes. I'm sure you've all seen all the self-check-ins that are really flourishing all around our industry. Here's on the video is a quick example taken from Zoku Amsterdam. So basically, the concept is that with the self-check-in, customers don't need to be welcoming at a desk, but will sometimes do the check-in themselves. Or as you see here, they issue their own card, they register before coming. And that's something that's interesting to reflect about what we've seen before that might have let us know where we were going. Because, you know, in the hospitality business, we often look into the airline business as an early trend setter. And what have we seen in the airline business? We've seen that for years now, they've changed their approach to welcoming people on desk through, and they moved it towards making them check into make their early check-in at within onboarding process, and they've been changing that to even do it before the client arrives at the airport. And that's the same thing that we are witnessing within our hospitality industry. So before we had a desk and people would arrive at the airport or the hotel, make their check-in and so on. So what we've seen now is that hotel businesses are setting tools so that they can people can check themselves in. And what we are seeing more and more, and COVID has really accelerated that, is that we have more and more tools that enable people to make their early check-in, to fill in do all the procedures that used to be carried upon arrival. So that changes a lot the way we operate, because when you welcome someone in the future or with those tools, you don't have to make the process and then you get the client's name, its ID, and all that kind of stuff. In many new through many new developments that we've seen emerging in recent months, people already arrive with their ID scan and so on. And so your job is really to have a conversation, to engage with customers so that you create a relationship, but a human one with no really check-in or management constraints. So that's really a different approach. We've changed from making something that I would say a procedure to something that's just like more a casual customer engagement. So it's quite different. We are not already there in all hotels. So you sometimes, in many cases, you still have to do all the procedures and so on, but it's coming, and it's something that will be for sure changing our industry in the years to come as well. The thing is, when you get people to check in themselves, so the idea of self-check-in is not always appropriate. And we have someone from the Plaza Athénée here, so the palace industry is a typical industry. Actually, in the upper segments, you are expecting service. You don't want to do something yourself. I mean, there would be a mismatch between the kind of service that you expect from that kind of prestigious property and the fact that you would need to do some boring stuff by yourself. Obviously, that's something that top-notch clients want to do. So actually, the right way to understand this digitalized check-in is different depending on the category and the guest profile that you are welcoming. What we just discussed with the automated stuff, the check, the self, of course, that's great for airport hotels, like the hotels that you can see on the left side of the screen. For airport hotels or for business guests who are in a hurry, that's something that they want the convenience, they don't need the engagement and so on. But whenever you are positioned slightly upwards, what we've heard from hoteliers is that you really don't want it to make it a self check-in experience. What you want is you get your customer right on the sofa, you bring him a cocktail, and someone from the staff will be actually making, if he hasn't done so before, the digitalized check-in process for the customer. So actually, it's not self, it's digitalized check-in, but digitization, and that's something that we should keep in mind. will not take the same form depending on the category of hotels that you are standing in. That's something really important that we need to keep in mind. So that's for the check-in. Check-in, obviously, many changes brought in recent months and years by digitization. But now, what this revolution has brought is something more new. Feel free to come and join us. Feel free, naturally. No? Okay. So yeah, the idea is that now there are other innovations that this self-arrival and automated reception and digitalized reception and reservation process has brought us. So, for example, the major groups, in many cases, have launched their own apps or websites because people don't always wanna download apps those days. So sometimes it's available both as an app or as a website, so it depends. But in any case, it's tied to the customer loyalty program in many instances, so that you bring loyalty and customer retention throughout your ecosystem, because you need, guys, to keep in mind that if you're a hotel, whether independent or chain, one of your key goals is to get as much as possible of your business direct. So avoiding OTAs and their commission rates, but or maybe accepting it for a customer that comes to you for the first time, but the second time you want the client to book through your system and to come through your own booking tools. So apps and websites have been evolving, and the idea is, if you want to make a difference as an hotelier with all the big booking websites, you need to offer something different. And that's something that many chains and groups and hotels have started to do. For instance, as you can see here on the screen, by allowing clients to choose their specific room. So I don't want to be bothered by noise. I want it to be far away from the elevators. I want this kind of view or this other one. I want to connect it. So it's something that really is fine-tuning, and it's helps elevate the experience. Of course, and that's something that digitization has really changed, and it's really accelerating at the moment right now, is the keyless, the keyless lock. So you can come into your room, you have your smartphone pop, and then it's open. So that's something that we really have seen emerging as well, and is really making a difference. Also, it's something that we see not only in the big groups. Just for example, here in Bordeaux, you have a new small chain called Gogai, which has just opened its first hotel in Limoges, and their concept is based on this very tool where actually you scan your phone, and it can be several technologies exist. Actually, you have the QR code, the NFC, so different technologies, each with their own pro and cons. I won't go into the details here at the moment. We can discuss it around if you're interested. But basically, different technologies exist, but the benefit is clear. It enables guests to have more autonomy, and also for hotelier, it's something that brings them closer to the way that all the C2C, so the private rentals like Airbnb, HomeAway, Abritel, and so on, are operating. So it enables, as an hotelier, for example, to service, to host hotel guests, and at the same time, if you have a couple of apartments in a nearby in the neighborhood, to offer as well your own apartments with hotel services. So it can enable you to lift your hotel capacity and to bring a different kind of hospitality offer and supply to your clients. So that's something that can really leverage your bottom line financial performance. But it's also great from a customer experience perspective, because as we've seen, It's convenient. You don't need to lose your key. And of course, we need to keep in mind, whenever we do that kind of stuff, we need to have an emergency solution. I mean, people can run out of battery, anything can happen. So whenever you do that kind of innovation, you need to keep in mind that you want a safety solution. You don't want to be 100% reliant on these tools. Naturally, you don't want a client to be unable to open his door whenever he comes back just because he's run out of battery. That's something that's not acceptable. So you need to keep in mind to have different options. And the idea is to have them converge into an environment where all these tools converge to make the experience easy. If the client wants to open his door with his traditional key, okay, he does so. With his smartphone, same thing. With a bracelet or whatever he can wear, wearable on resort hotels, for instance, it's something that we see a lot. That's okay. The idea is, in the end, is to make the experience feel better. So we've discussed together the check-in, the reservation, the moment the client gets in. But even if in the environment, so it's just digitalization is not just about the booking and all that kind of stuff. As something I want to highlight today, that it's really important as well within your hotel, actually, when we discuss with hoteliers and with guests as well, what we've seen is that, what we hear is that actually the two digital is key to two elements in the hotel. One is customer experience. So it's how you will feel and live your experience within the hotel. And two is how to optimize your operations from a hotelier and business perspective. So these are really the two core added value components of digital within our hospitality industry. So if we look into the customer experience, because that's where I was heading to. So your guest walks into your hotel. He's done his early check-in and so on. And now he runs into the lobby. And digitization can help us here as well. I think, just to give you an example here, that's from a Fantasyland hotel. So it's a resort hotel. And the idea is to immerse clients within an experience. And it's something that we see a lot in resorts. For example, you will have, if you're a sea destination, you will have big fish and so on, like for those who are the scuba diving destinations, they tend to put into a deep sea and so on. For resort hotel like that, they can also tailor the environment to the season. So it's Halloween season, there will be orange and all the kind of stuff that will make their kids feel that they're already within the park and in the theme of the moment, whether Christmas. So it can also help you change the experience when you enter a hotel, because with digital, it can be changed super quick. So it's not just about FF&E, having the best materials and so on. You can change the creative and change totally the theme of your hotel and of your lobby, even within a year. So that helps bring seasonality. And in some hotels, like resorts, obviously, it can create value because you have a different experience every time you come to the hotel. So that's just one example, but there are many others. If we look this time at the MICE business, like where hotels where you have more business customers. So here's an example in Spain, which is the NH chain, and where they have this whole late ceiling building, so very futuristic, and you have others where you have all this hologram stuff. So same thing. The idea is it can help you make a wow effect. So that's something obviously you want to look into when you're talking about the upper class hotels. And it can help you. We've seen that in resort, but also in nice hotels. So that's something that might be helpful. And even in a family hotel, I know like about a couple of family hotels where they tell the story of the local hotel, of the family. And so even in a hotel with no specific like digital wow-seeking experience, it can tell you the actual local story of your hotel and create a connection with your guest. And that's something that can be helpful. So we've discussed the lobby. Now, another element is within the guest room. Obviously, digital has also changed many things within the rooms. And that's something that we can see typically, for example, throughout these apps. So let's take a quick look. So that's the Hilton Honors app, for instance. So same thing, I have my smartphone, I tap on some stuff, and then I can control the temperature, control the TV, and the domotics of the hotel. So if I want to turn the window blinders off, I can do so, and so on. So many different things. Actually, the idea is to integrate, is to make it a control pad. Actually, the idea is that you can order stuff, you can control stuff. That's the way hoteliers have been doing things in recent months. Sorry, I'll just take off my mask for a couple of seconds because I'm really not comfortable for the moment. But yeah. So yeah, within guest rooms, that's a key element, is that we want people to have control. Another thing is that digital is also changing the way we do things within the room. We back in the days, you had people coming to the room and using the TV. Actually, I think it was 60% of the time, and especially naturally if you had a business guest coming alone or sometimes family as well. But it was in this ballpark, I think 60–65%. Through time, the use of TVs has really decreased because everyone is now using their phones, their laptops, and so clients come in with their own devices. So actually, the use of the hotel equipment had been decreasing for a couple of years. Actually, I think without any specific solutions, now it's about 40%. So it's still high. You are not yet able to really skip off the TVs, for example, from your equipment. It's not something possible, but it's still lower, and so you had a lower value derived from it. So what have hoteliers done? I think maybe maybe you've guessed, of course, with the slides, but maybe one of you has had this experience himself or herself. No, because that's something that you see a lot now. So it's an example from Rochester Hotels, and the idea, and I'll explain it after the quick video, is to enable guests to use their own device and connect it to the TV. That's what we call cast. Same thing as you do with your home, at your home with Chromecast. There are a number of technologies, but the idea is the same, casting your own device to the TV. That's how it works. So basically, in this example, he scanned a flash code and make a connection with his own device. But there are actually different ways to do that. There's really a big fight between geeks, between two technologies. On the one side is Chromecast or any other cast solutions. Miracast and many others. There are many providers, but the idea is that you connect the phone to the TV, and then it can use the client can use his or her apps on the directly on the TV. The pros is that it's something really integrated. So if you want to watch, for instance, a series or something like that, it's pretty helpful. The cons is that it's less quick and easy than the mirroring, which really is a copycat of your phone screen. So so the idea is Chromecast, you need to put your own password in it. So some people might not be comfortable with it, but in the other time, it's really a better experience. So both are their pros and cons. Actually, both are interesting, but it's two different ways to do the same thing, which is something that you want to do in the future, is to enable guests to use their own device within the hotel room. So whatever the technology, and both have their merits, the idea is that, and actually we've seen that whenever people are able to cast their device on a TV, the use rate of TVs then climbs again by plus 15%. So the 40 is now back to a majority, and people are using it. So that's something we've seen from experiments and studies done in experimental research done in hotels. So in rooms, we've seen that digital can help us open the door, control stuff. I haven't discussed so much domotics, but you guys probably all know about that. I mean, something that can enable you to control from a distance all of your key room features. Another element is that within the room, there are more and more digital innovations enabling customers to book services, for example, that are in the neighborhood, or to engage with hotel staff. So messaging is the obvious stuff. More and more hotels have their own messenger or AliChat or many WeChat as well, naturally. So messaging is something that is really also on the rise at the moment. Not always easy to manage because you don't want the loops are not so clear. So it's something that's still emerging. Some tools like this offer to encompass it within a solution where customers can book, and same idea that you want to have your own hotel app and people can message you through that tool and so on. But the core idea is that digital concierge, messaging, booking nearby services, digital is trying to make its way into this this field as well, even though it's not totally there. I think from an operational perspective, it's something that might be rising in the future. So here's an example from Paradores, Spanish chain. And to sum up a little bit what we've seen is that in many cases you will have this global approach where digital acts as an all-in-one idea, where you have the control room feature control we discussed, you have the messaging system, you have the local recommendations, and so on. So the idea is that here in this example of Virgin Hotels, you have a comprehensive environment that helps you get to consumers and engage them. So before I move to F&B and other areas of the hotels, maybe we can take a couple of questions. We'll have an open question sessions in the end. But while we're there, and before I move on, any questions on the hotel room and lobby so far? No, we're fine. Okay. So let's discuss food and beverage. Food and beverage, of course, it's something that where digital had its difficult. It was more difficult for digitization to rise in this environment, which had been more traditional for long. But really, COVID has revolutionized many things recently, and food and beverage is now really a key component of digitization. I'm sure you're not all familiar with the QR codes for the menus and also on that you've seen pop up everywhere on the bar and restaurant tables for a while, and are still there and will remain with us because it can enable them to save paper, to quickly change menus and different aspects. The thing is, digital in F&B, what we've seen is really what you can see from the surface is really the tip of the iceberg, I would say, because what can really make, let's make it a question. What can really make a difference, you think, from what can really digital tools can really change in F&B according to you? Let's make it a quick guess. Anyone jumping in? Try to. Sorry, I didn't get the question. What do you think? How do you think digital tools can be the most impactful in changing way things work in a restaurant or in a bar? What can be more efficient if we use digital?
You can just order right on the menu with your phone and then pay with by your phone. I think it would be easier.
So you said this is the ordering and payment process. That's interesting because actually it's part of the answer. Indeed, the thing is, there are different ways to use digital in food and beverage. If you do things, if customer, it's the same thing as what we discussed earlier on with the lobby. In some cases, you want guests to be able to book by themselves, to do their self check-in, to do their self ordering. In others, it might not be in tune with the profile or the service that you are expecting. But in both cases, what you said is right, is that the payment process, for instance, can be very convenient if you can do it automatically. But whenever we think of digital and F&B, what we tend to think first about is the customer side. What you said is, I book directly, and then I pay directly. I tend to think personally that what really makes a difference is the back of house side, because actually, you're right, if you order directly, you can save time. But what really changed the time that we save is that when you have a waiter coming in and he takes your order, and you know he uses a tablet. And so he will take your order, listen to you, maybe make his advice, and so get the human touch and get the human experience in some cases you want to have. But the thing is, whenever you make the order, instead of having to run to the kitchen, yell it to someone in the kitchen, come back, and then having spent some time to do that, that is actually not time where he serves customers. It's something that can be directly cut if the server just takes an order, and then it's directly sent to the kitchen. And even if you have the right intelligence or the right digital tools, the cooker can know when to launch each dish or to launch each. For instance, you have someone who takes mussel, someone who takes beef, and you don't want to launch that at the same time. And then he can know when exactly to launch the elements so that people will get served at the same time. So, in my opinion, I think that what creates the most value from an F&B perspective is really the back of house, what customers won't see, because it doesn't change your experience and actually can even lift it. You, instead of waiting for someone to see you and look at you and bring some water, you can have more time to serve clients. So that's something that's really interesting, and we don't often think about it. But what you say is totally right as well. For all the process stuff, it can be really helpful. And for example, to make the final payment, instead of having to edit the book and the bill and so on, maybe you can directly pay, and the customer say thank you, and then you're good. So both, it's quite an interesting answer, but personally, I tend to think that what we don't think about is the hidden side, and that can really make a difference. By the way, thinking about waiters, I just grab a cup of waiter as well. But yeah, it's feel free to discuss any other ideas about F&B if you have so, because I think it's something that is worth discussing. So, yes, QR codes, one thing, flash codes or things like that. Payment is really something that you also can add value, as we just discussed. And the last thing is all the automated process where you want to check. It's something that's not really ready for the moment, but people are thinking about it. It's all well, there are several elements. All the health and safety concerns. So whenever something is cleaned, whenever something is, you need some traceability, or you need to, or you want to be transparent about the ingredients. So say this is locally sourced. This has no, I don't know, no gluten within it. So the idea is whenever you make your menu, it can help you make this automatic, or help you create recipes that will be tailored to all the different special needs of your guests, allergies, and so on. So many innovations coming in within the F&B universe. Really a lot of stuff. So yeah, and one last thing I haven't discussed in F&B is that yeah, it's something that we've started to discuss together with the idea of clients making their order themselves. It's something that actually does exist. It's tied at the moment, it's more associated to the fast food universe, where everyone is now accustomed to beg their book and pay and get to their order at the desk. But there are some ways actually to mix that with the traditional experience. And the example here is from a cafe where basically people place their orders, take a picture, and the waiter will either go to their table, or they will go themselves to the desk, and with the photo, they will be recognized, so that someone will bring their order directly to their table. So Once again, the idea is that instead of going back and forth to the room, to the kitchen, to the bar, to wherever, you save some time for your staff this way. Then it's a matter of how you position the experience. Again, you don't want, in some types of food and restaurants, you don't want to have the feeling that people are doing stuff themselves, or you want to keep in touch with people. So rather than saying that people will order themselves or grab themselves their order, a mixed way is to have someone do it, but do it through digital in an efficient way. So both models will exist, actually. There's room from everyone. And yeah, nature hates the void, and then everyone will find a solution that in the end will find its public at the right price. So digital is really just a tool. That's something you need to keep in mind. It's a tool, and depending on the way you use it, the people understanding of its value will change. So you just need to adapt your price positioning according to that. So we've discussed F&B, but another, and I would say major component that has changed recently is MICE, meetings, incentive, conventions, congresses, and events. Really, that's a component of hospitality that has been really transformed by the rise of digital tools. One of the first obvious that we'll see here is the example of the old paper boards or even boards. Here we have now, instead of the traditional ones, we have a screen. Same thing within your hotel. And now you always have one or several screens for people to put their presentation and to innovate. And you have new tools like this one that are changing the way we interact. So the digital paper boards are an example that has really kept has really been rising in hotels that host seminars and meetings and all kind of business events. So just one example here, but it's really something that where hotels have changed their equipment and changed their rooms to adjust to this new need. Another obvious element, and I think once again COVID has been a tremendous trigger for acceleration, is our Visio video conference tools. So what the problem with video and all the remote stuff is that sometimes you don't have the right view on people, on who is talking, especially if you're in a meeting and where the people who talk are changing. Same thing with the voice captation. I mean, now we have here today, for instance, it's relatively easy from a technical standpoint because I'm the one talking, but if it changes, if you want to change the angle and so on, it's not that easy. And it's actually a way where hotels can make a difference, because why would people again go to a hotel and meet within a hotel room? Well, the answer is that you might do so if you think you will have a better equipment than within your companies, which is pretty rare these days. So because businesses have really invested a lot in these tools, so it's really something that will be needed in the future to differentiate oneself. And so some new tools like these ones, they automatically zoom in, zoom out, change the microphone depending on who is speaking. So even if you remote, and you will see automatically the people who are talking, and have a really an in-house like, physical like, I would say, experience. So that's something that's really can make a difference. Or you also have these cameras running and zooming in, zooming out, and many actually ways to optimize the way we do that kind of stuff. It's not necessarily something frozen on the screen when you see someone from a distance. You have really tools that enable you to lift up the experience. So MICE is, yeah.
Do you think this kind of device can compete like to hotels? It can compete to other business, because usually when it's online already, people will not hire like rent a hotel space to do the meetings. Usually, I think only conference or seminar that are held in hotels. And with seminar and conference, it is not like that.
Actually,
the tool is not. I don't think the tool is useful in that situation.
Well, it's true. If you look at the habits of the at the moment, because whenever people organize seminars, they tended to meet in person. But if we move into a world, and I think it's going to be the case, where there's always someone that is at a distance because he's working from a different country, maybe, or as a personal situation where at the moment he's not working physically within the offices. And so actually it's the idea is what we call phygital, which is whenever an event is at the same time physical and digital. Of course, it's useless if you have 6 people meeting together in the same room. I mean, there's no point. It's only helpful if you have at least one people that is away within a meeting that is supposed to be mostly in person. Then it can be helpful, and that's where actually tomorrow market needs might be. You're right that it's not obvious, and maybe it won't be the old habits will be sticky and remain once COVID is away. But it's not obvious. I mean, the way we business and the work environments have changed a lot in recent years, and it's not sure that we'll be back to the way we used to operate. And if you just have a seminar room when people can meet in person, maybe the people will think, well, let's just do that in our own offices, and this way we have all the tools that we can use. There's always something that you need to offer as an add-on to create value. And so, yeah, my seminar rooms are something where actually you might think again about what you are offering to your clients. Digital paperboards, an example. Phygital, as we call them now, tools are another, because it's something that businesses don't always have. So as a hotel, you can make a difference maybe in this way. But you're right, it was not the traditional way of doing things. Yes? Yes, please.
It can be useful like for corporates who send their contractors abroad.
Yeah.
Then they have to do like a meeting, and the person is not in the country. It can like they can.
Yeah, that's just one typical example. You're right of whenever there's a sales representative sent abroad, or somebody even permanently working from another country office. So the thing is, maybe tomorrow, rather than having that people come to the country for 2 days and have the jet lag and the travel time and so on, they will prefer to engage them digitally with people in-house. And so, yeah, that's a different approach of doing things. And then the way we meet, actually, everything depends on how businesses meet in the end. And if the way business people meet changes, then we'll need to adjust as well how, as hotels, we handle them. I think that's the story. Yes.
I was almost on your point. because we noticed during the lockdown that some hoteliers transformed their hotel rooms into business offices, because some people cannot work at home because they don't have the space to do that. So it's a mix between MICE and classical rental, I would say, of a room. But in addition, the hotel provides additional services to for professionals who cannot have that if they are at home.
Yeah, actually, it's something that's not purely digital, and so it's why I had not discussed it right here, but it's totally another key trend is that hotels want to address the needs more and more of local residents, of local workers. So you have more rooms, for instance, that are following COVID, as Rick just said. I mean, many hotels changed the way they rented their rooms and try to rent them as offices. The thing is, you cannot easily convert a room into an office, except if you have some equipment like beds that can roll up to the ceiling, or that can be hidden as in a cupboard. And that's something that some hotels have been investing in, so that they can rent the room as an office during daytime and as a room during nighttime. That's something that we've seen, but it's only emerging so far. It's too early to call on whether it works or not, because you have operational constraints and the time you need to clean and so on. So not easy, not sure it will be working, but it's something that we've seen. And in that case, if you have people working within your hotel, or even if we don't discuss within a room, I mean, if you've changed one of your seminar rooms because it was less occupied and it used to be into a flex office and of co-working stuff and so on, then you have services that you want to offer to people who are working within your hotel and that are creating it's great value for an hotel to have local workers coming in, coming out. If you sell F&B, it can create value. If you have more people, it can create also another atmosphere, more like you as a tourist, you'll feel more like a local as well. So it has some benefits. So it's something that you want to do to bring added value to your guests within the experience, and enabling them to be phygital event compatible is something that you might be doing or want to be doing. So we've discussed business, but digital can also help leisure and activities in general. So here's an example taken from a resort operator, Club Med, which you probably know. I'll just show you the example. So it says, and now when you found a sport buddy. So basically the idea is that the app will enable you to find someone to play with for whether tennis or beach volley or whatever. You put a time slot, you say, I want to play tennis at 5, and maybe you didn't know anyone in your friends or in your family, you didn't have enough partners, and then whatever activity, you can find a partner within the resort and play with them at the same time. So can help you find a sport buddy. That's just an example of how to, I think, what is a good way to use digital is really to help people make a connection. And it's something that it's very simple, but in the end, it enhances the customer experience. That's something that we really want to keep in mind. Also on the fitness and leisure stuff. So this one is more like a prototype. So it's a collab between a famous auto worker, Pullman, which is a hotel chain, and a company which make outdoor equipment. So the idea is that hotels are thinking at the moment about using digital for having people for transporting people and enabling them to do fitness at the same time. So it's something that's really a prototype, of course, but just to show you that digital is on its way to new components of the experience that you might not have thought about, and the transportation is just one of them. But there's something that we haven't discussed so far, and I want to be back on it because I am really convinced that it's one of the core added value of digital. People always have in mind the B2C side of innovation because it's the thing that you see, that you can touch. But really, digitalization has really changed a lot as well the back of house, the operation side of the business. And just think of it this way, rather than having to see, so if you think about the process, whenever to identify whether a room is available, has been cleaned, and is ready to rent for customers. Sometimes you have tools that enable you to know, that enables room cleaning staff to know whether the guest is within the room or not. So you're sure not to disturb whatever happens. But what's more important is that these tools can enable you to, depending on which rooms are occupied, to optimize the route that the cleaning or maintenance staff will be doing. And so they optimize the way they clean rooms whenever it's ready, rather than letting know the people downstairs that this room has been cleaned, this one needs to be checked again, this one is will remain occupied because actually the guest in the meantime, the guest had said to the reception that he will be staying one more night, but it's been claimed as if the guest was leaving. All of these elements, actually, if you have a comprehensive digital tools that the reception, whenever the reception says, this room actually is going to be occupying one more night, so you do it in a faster way than if you change the guest, for instance, or if you actually as soon as the room has been cleaned and checked, it's made available and the guest can enter his room and make an early check-in, then you can really create added value to your guest as well. So all the back of house stuff and all the thing is the HR component. So for instance, think of it this way, digital can help you know in advance how many rooms will be occupied, will have to be cleaned, and if it's synced to your HR systems, make you an alert if that day you don't have enough people, or another one you have too many, so you can change and optimize stuff. And that's really something that creates a lot of value because it really helps you optimize the way you operate. And that's actually, even it's not something that the guests will see, it's something that will make a major difference to your finances as a hotel and to the way you operate as a business. So it's really something that you want to keep in mind. Back of house, room operations, there's a whole lot of ways to really innovate in this field. And that's something, one of the two, as I discussed when we started this table, as I said, there are two elements where digital can make the biggest difference. It's customer experience, it's what we've discussed and talked about, and optimization of operations. And don't forget about the second one, because it's really helpful as well for you as a hotelier, and especially since you'll be in this universe. Let's bring a couple of other examples. Maintenance or outside cleanings. I mean, you now have drones or smart tools that will let you know, for instance, will automatically call for a plumber or an electricity maintenance guy whenever they are not working. So instead of having a guest that is not satisfied because he has no light and it needs to be changed, and so you need to give him another room and so on, then if the lighter can tell, hey, sorry, I'm not working, and someone can change it, or if it's something that's more technical and needs external intervention and maintenance, call for it. That's something that can really create value, because instead of having a room that's not available for the night, it can be room sent and sold and occupied. So really big difference. And just the last word on that is that digital is also a way to change we manage operations. We can use it to monitor hotel performance. So in many ways, and for example, if we talk about I want to discuss that because it's really something super important in our lives today and in the businesses' minds, is the green aspect of our business. And hotel monitoring tools, for instance, can now help you optimize energy consumption live. So whenever it can automatically turn the temperature down or up depending on the room, whether the room is occupied or will be occupied on the following night or not, to also make sure that whenever a guest is out of his room, turn off the lights and all of the equipment and so on, so as to minimize electricity consumption and so on. And to identify, once again, to identify problems. So if you see that some room is consuming too much water, maybe there's a leak somewhere, and you want to check in that. So really many ways to optimize the way we manage operations. Same thing, of course, with a guest relationship, with many aspects that maybe we'll discuss together later on. But yeah, actually many ways to optimize hotel operations. So all of this are what we've discussed are really what I think digitization can help hotels maximize value, generate value. That's something that creates value. But they are more even far-fetched, innovative concepts that we need to have in mind and that we need to think about. And a very famous example, everyone knows it now. Back in the days, a couple of years when we identified them, nobody knew them, but the Henna Hotel, it's a hotel in Japan near a theme park, next to a theme park, and where the oldest hotel staff are robots. So including the reception here, where you're basically speaking to a robot. And robotics is really something that should really put ourselves, call ourselves into question. I mean, how can we make a difference? Can we create more value? The thing is, it can work, as we say, but it's just another machine in the end. And we're a business where one of our core mottos, of our core reasons for being, is to host guests, to create a connection. So it must, in some cases, in some concepts, this kind of super automated hotels might have find their market. In many others, it will be different. But it's something that we really need to have in mind. I mean, same thing. You have robot porters that travel your luggage here, or that store them. And it's another example where you have this robotic, just like in the car factories, that stores your luggage into a specific lock, and then when you depending on the hour you want to take them away, it can bring you. Same thing with waiters. I mean, you have robots and robotic arms in a restaurant that might serve guests. Here's an example from a cafe in Budapest, or I like this one better, which is in Singapore, where you have drones actually bringing you your drink. So that's something we need to keep in mind, because it's something that some concepts or some people might get into that direction. The question is, where do we stop, and where does it become geeky and maybe not so pointful, so valuable from a customer experience? I mean, does it really bring value? Not so sure. Another interesting example on that field is voice control. Voice control, so you all know about Alexa and that kind of stuff. So here's an example. I don't want to put the sound, but you'll guess from the video. Basically, the idea is that you can order stuff, put on music, and so on. There are many people who have been, and here's an official experimentation that Marriott has done with Alexa. The thing is, and it's really something that our research has shown when we discussed hoteliers as well as major customers. The thing is, whenever you are in a hotel, you're out of your comfort zone, you're not in your home environment, and you might not be comfortable with the idea of a digital device listening to you at 100% of time. There are even real issues of safety for businesses. I mean, if you're a security contractor, do you really want all those digital giants listening to you 100% of the time and having a full knowledge of your business? Maybe not. I think, and what we've seen when we discuss with hoteliers, whichever tool tends to be automated or listening or looking into you in the rooms is something that's not really well accepted by customers. I mean, same thing with the video tools for instance, some hotels also experimented with a cam on the TV that enable guests to speak with the reception staff. Sounds interesting, but actually people prefer to go downstairs, and corporate clients said, I don't want to be observed and so on. So you really want to be cautious about whatever might be felt as infringing privacy. Hotel room it's a room, so it's really your inner space. You don't want too much digital listening / looking at you in that field. And there's also other fields where digital tools in hotels are almost like, more broadly speaking, an issue, a topic for discussion as a society. I mean, facial recognition, for instance, is something that does exist in some hotels, especially in Asia, where basically all the most pioneering innovations are taking place at the moment. But is this something that we want to adopt? How do we manage face recognition database? In Europe, it wouldn't be accepted from a legal perspective, for instance. So that's something that is more broadly a question for society and not just for hoteliers, but still something that we need to keep in mind. It's technically possible. Then it's about what is right or what is not. What we need to keep in mind is that it's not because there's a new digital innovation. This doesn't mean it will catch up. There are examples where it just didn't find its public. A good example is the digital wall. You know, in a hotel lobby, you have a big screen and it's supposed to let you know about the weather and what activities might be nearby. I mean, you can just go outside and look at it by yourselves. So people obviously didn't find a lot of value into it. And the only ways where it actually turned very helpful and where it worked are airports or hotels near railway stations. And then what they did is that they just mirrored, the departing flights and the departing trains. Then, of course, it has value. But if it's just to show the weather, I mean, you go out and then, or you have it on your smartphone, doesn't make any change. So, just one example. Another example is that the digital table at the restaurant. So, having a screen to put your order rather than the menu. The thing is that a table is a place where people eat. So you have it gets nasty. You can make stuff. Actually, you can break the screen if your fork doesn't go into the right way and so on. So the hoteliers didn't find value in it. So it's not because you have a digital innovation that it will catch up. Different stories, different possibilities, and still in the end it looks helpful. You see here they could make their own pizza, choosing the ingredients and so on. So sounds interesting, but in the end, what will matter is if you find a business opportunity in it. Another thing, and I just make a quick opening so as to introduce the discussion that we'll have later on together, is that there are other ways to innovate. On the other hand, there are a whole wealth of new concepts that are offering people what we call digital detox or a totally different experience. Here is an example of a hotel where you are staying within trees with no connection, with sometimes you have some of these concepts also have no toilets. This one is like more upscale, so you have it, but I mean you have this nature likes get into tree experience. Same thing with like the full nature experience, like you're on the top of a mountain and on top of a ski slope, so it's totally not digital. Or you have this stuff where you go into the middle of nowhere, you just walk into the polar the solar sun when the sun is rising in the winter side, so near the Arctic Circle. Or you see this kind of we just seen earlier on the experience with where you have the screens with fishes. I mean, why do that when you have places where you can be really eating with real fish like around you? So it's a totally different experience. Same thing with more like when you have more traditional hotels, like concepts, like the Chateau de Versailles, just a good example. It offers you to stay even within the chateau, so feel like a king, have a different experience, and it's something it's more like in real life, I would say, than digital. So you have art also, many hotels trying to bring art into their experience. So 21C is a good example here, but you have a drawing hotel in Paris, and you also have many other ways to engage with customers. Engaging children, for example, like here at the Fairmont Royal Marrakesh, where they offer them cooking lessons. That's something that it's like low tech, but it's something so helpful, so engaging, so creating much value that it's a different way. Another path that has been is being taken more and more by the hospitality business is be more sustainable. So it's an example of a hotel where you have more than 900 solar panels on the roof, so you consume 30% less energy. So managing your building energy consumption is good, but producing energy is another way to optimize, obviously, and even probably most helpful way to optimize your energy consumption. You have many actually innovations in the field of sustainability. So plastic-free hotels is something that we see emerging in Europe, but there were already some cases like here in Latin America. You have also naturally the trend of getting green. So making having gardens on the hotel roofs is another trend that we've seen rising a lot. Chefs use the herbs, and local people will actually rent their own garden, small square meter for growing their vegetables. So you have local residents once again coming into the hotel. So more engagement with local people, more value from also having more, like here it's Paris, but in many places, more local people coming in. Of course, we discussed F&B, but one of the obvious ways to optimize your operations is to optimize waste management. And you can do that through the tools that, as we've discussed, but you can also do that by, for instance, setting up a partnership with an NGO that will help you manage the food you order, and then take charge of whatever whatever leftover you have. So another way to optimize. We've discussed traveling, but there are also concepts where you have one-off hosting solutions for events. So the Flying Nest from Accra is an example that was, for instance, on a Grand Prix, on a Formula One race, and also on the ski slopes. So basically, having a hotel for a quick period of time, a hotel solution for a short period of time, it's another way to innovate. And last example of sustainability is you have more and more hotels trying to engage with their local destination. And one of the ways to do that is also to protect the environment. In that example, you have an example of a hotel that's near the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. So as you know, it's an endangered wide area. So the hotel is actually growing corals to help the nearby coral reef to renew itself and to survive. So totally different ways to innovate, and that are really not connected to digital. So all the different way of thinking. And to sum up, the thing is, today's hospitality challenge, number one challenge at the moment, is human resources. You guys are lucky because there's really, of course, as you know, a lack of manpower in our business. It's hard to find skilled people. So the idea is it's very important for hoteliers to find and attract talents and to retain them. So if we think about that, that's why we've seen some new trends rise, like companies setting up their own in-house universities or trainings, or all their own formation tools. And also it has changed the way that hoteliers are thinking about loyalty, because loyalty is now also getting your employee loyals. And so loyalty perks and loyalty programs are now coming to the HR programs as well. So all of these are totally different ways to optimize your way of doing things. Other ways that hoteliers are doing it at the moment are addressing key societal issues, such as here, in that case, gender equality. So if we sum up, what we've seen is that digitalization has brought a lot of innovation, and really helpful innovation, to our businesses. In some cases, there is no like pioneering innovations that might not find its public or remain a niche, like the robotic stuff that we've seen. But in the end, what will really make a difference, because what we see that digitalization is not the only trend. There are many other ways to innovate, whether through no digital actually, or through sustainability, through HR, loyalty, and enhancing. So in the end, what will create the most value is to integrate our approaches to digital and to the human side of business. If we want to create value, we want digital to generate customer satisfaction, to generate the business optimization that we've discussed, like cutting costs, optimizing time, and so on. And we want digitization to be a tool serving the needs of human guests and staff. So the idea is we don't need to think of it as a clash or as different ways of operating, but we need to think about how to integrate them in a right way so that you have the right level of digitization, also depending on your product profile of your category, because as you've seen, you don't want to do it the same way, depending on how your hotel is positioned and in which country, also because cultural trends also play a role in that. So that's really the key message you have to keep in mind. Really, digitization has helped us optimize a lot of stuff. There are more like breathtaking innovations that might not be become so broad in the future. And because there are so many different ways to innovate in our business, in the end, what will make a difference is will be our ability to bundle together the capabilities of humans and machines. So that's for the open session. And if you have questions, or maybe we'll move directly to the roundtable. I don't know how we are about timing. Or
thank you. You've given us a lot of food for thought, I think, for everybody.
Do we have questions from?
We have a couple of questions, so I think we can answer the ones that came from the chat, and also the ones that came from the public, and then we go on to the round table.
Maybe let's go for the chat questions.
So I'm going to rebound on what you said about the customer needs and the experience, because we have Natalie, who is going to be also participating in the roundtable afterwards, who's asking you actually, is it in a way to delegate a lot of tasks upon customers rather than answering a need from them?
A way to delegate the task? It's a good approach, because I think it's a good question, because indeed there's really a tension in this field between for hoteliers, and it's really difficult, I think, to find the right spot. The right spot really depends on your hotel, on your concept, on where you are located, what is your category, as we discussed earlier on. Because, as we said, we don't want people to have to make their self-check-in. We want it to be an option, but we don't want them to have to do something by themselves. And actually, in the end, the key, I think, is to let people know, to let people choose the way they want to interact. I mean, personally, I prefer go and speak with someone rather than doing the stuff by myself and coming to my room and unlocking with my phone. I mean, I totally prefer having the human touch and get in contact with someone. But in the end, this need might change depending on whether I'm late, whether I'm here for business, for leisure. So it can change depending on your customer, and it can change depending on your hotel profile as well. As we've seen, if you're more on the service side, if you want to have the experience. So I think we need to think of it as, to answer the question, we want to empower guests, but we don't want to delegate them. We want to have the possibility to, but we don't want to force them to. That's really a key difference, I think.